Welcome back, fake Orioles fans. It is August 1st, 2022. The last update was in May of 2022, and then, of course, there was the draft in June, but the last team update was in May. As you can see, we have the privilege of playing in the best division in baseball. Well, not that the playing in the same division as the best team in baseball. We are 12 and a half back of the Yankees, who are playing about 650 ball, but the wild card, the Orioles still holding tough, 60 and 52, one game behind the Twins for the second wild card spot, 5 and 5 in our last 10. And since it has been a little bit, how did we get here? Let me show you team statistics. So May we were in last time I told you 16 and 12. June was a great month, 17 and 9. July, hit or miss, good and bad. Runs scored third in the AL. Runs allowed seventh. Starters ERA still struggling at 11th. Overall team ERA is fifth. WAR from pitchers is 15th in the AL, so dead last. And our defense isn't great. Our infield defense is pretty poor, which I knew already. Outfield defense is okay. This has fluctuated some, and it's come up a bit lately. And of course, since today is August 1st, the trade deadline just passed. And in June and July, I was pretty active, made several trades, which I can show you here. Here's the first one I made. Brought in Alex Wood from the Phillies. He's with the Phillies in this sim, and he's signed this year and next year. Brought in to pitch towards the top of my rotation, and he hasn't been that great, but we'll get to that. And got a relief prospect too. Gave up 5 pieces. The only one that was painful to give up was Revis. Just show in a minute. Justin Steele was the only guy who had played in the major leagues for me. He was one of the pitchers I'd acquired in 2020 when I took over and traded everybody for prospects. So Revis, as you can see, his ratings are really high, and he continues to grow. His home run was like a 35 when I traded him. In a month, it's grown to 50. And he was a guy I kind of got as a throw-in a trade with the Cubs in 2020, and he's just skyrocketed from there. As you can see, his runs created plus very, very good. And then I gave him a shot. I gave him only 82 plate appearances, and he was 20% below league average, 80 runs created plus. But now he's gone to Philly, and he's hitting the ball well. So I expect him to be a good player. He's a ground ball hitter, doesn't hit for much power. Of course, look at his home run totals here in all these at bats in the minor leagues. 6, and then he hit 2 and 290, 3 and 144. And now he's gone to Philly and hit 7 and 153. So, he's an on-base guy who seems to all of a sudden since the trade have gotten some power. And his power rating from my Scout and OSA have both gone up a good bit over the last month. So go figure. But, with Mountcastle entrenched at first base, and I have a couple really good DH options, he was a guy I was willing to give up. And I was not anticipating him becoming a power hitter. I think that could make this even more painful. But, I got a guy who I anticipate pitching at the top of my rotation this year and next when I'm trying to contend. And Revis didn't really have a clear-cut role. And when I gave him about 3 weeks up, and he was just doing nothing, which isn't enough time, but it was enough to know that, all right, maybe this guy's expendable. He's got pretty high trade value. I'm going to give him up. So that was the first trade that I made. Come down here. The second trade I made, so I needed a lefty in the back end of my bullpen. So Brad Hand, he's day-to-day right now. I brought him in, and he's been fine. He's been okay. And he's also signed through next year for a cheap salary, and the Brewers agreed to retain 45%. Lorenzo Cain is in the last year of his deal, his original deal that he's in real life with the Brewers. And he'd been really good until this year. He had just been terrible at the plate, and the Brewers just wanted somebody to take him. So my thinking here was I have Kevin Pillar in center field, and he's also a good right fielder. My right fielder is Trevor Larnach, who's really good with the bat, but not a good fielder. And my fielding stats were not very good as a team for the year. So I figured I'd move Cain to center field, move Pillar to right, and then I could DH Larnach, and that would push just like Toro or any other rotating cast of characters out of the DH spot. I decided to do that rather than acquire a DH bat. And I did this, in the middle of June with the thought that, like, let's give Cain a month and see if his back can turn around, because he'd been really good up through last year, even though he's like 36, and then had fallen off the cliff this year. And I figured worst case would at least help my defense. It didn't even end up helping my defense. Cain was not. His defense fell off from even where he was with the Brewers, and it was only a month. It's a small sample, but I didn't have time to see if it was going to work out. This was like, when is this going to work out now kind of thing for me. And so Pilar wasn't adjusting well to right field. Cain was doing okay in center field, but his bat was terrible. His WAR was negative with me, so I actually decided I turned around and traded him in about a week before the deadline because it just wasn't working out. A couple other trades here. Eugenio Suarez went from the Reds to the Mariners, pretty big. Yu Darvish went from the Cubs to the Diamondbacks. Yeah, some other decent. Evan White's a pretty good get, but they did get Suarez. So then what did I do? I went and I got, let's see, I got another bullpen arm for the back of my bullpen, Jairo Diaz. I gave up Corey Bell, who, meh. About what you did, I drafted him in the 31st round of the 2020 draft, and I turned him into a major league reliever who can pitch in the back end of my bullpen, assigned through next year, for a cheap salary, $1.2 million. So pretty happy with that. Bell, I don't expect much out of him, and he's 24. So then I did unload Cain. The Cubs were interested for some reason, and I got 3 kind of prospects that I don't expect much from. They're all like 23-ish in like A or AA ball. Not doing a ton, but hey, I've been able to develop some guys like Revis and some guys who are on my major league team now who didn't look that great. So I figured I'd take a chance on them. I don't expect anything from these guys. And they're all guys who have to be added to the 40-man or the Rule 5 eligible this year. I doubt I'll even add any of them. So then the big trade that I made to fill that hole that I was trying to fill with Cain was I got Alex Verdugo from the Red Sox. Now Verdugo he's in arbitration this year. He's got 2 more years of arbitration left. They're retaining 20% of his deal this year. With arbitration eligible players, they don't retain anything moving forward. Verdugo's been a very solid player in this sim. As you can see, his runs created plus, 20-ish% above league average, putting up 3 to 4-ish wins per year. This year he put up 2.8 in 99 games. He's only played 7 games for me so far, so then he's gotten off to a very slow start, but I'm not worried about that. And he will be able to play right field. He's a good right fielder, so then Larnach can DH Pilar in center. The reason why the Red Sox, they're out of the race, but they were willing to give rid of him, I think, is his personality. Alienates his teammates, bad news in the clubhouse. I got an email saying my players were worried about him being added to the clubhouse. And it can mess with team chemistry, especially if you're not winning. But I'm winning right now, so I'm hoping that, he can be absorbed into the clubhouse and not piss anybody off, really. And honestly, if his trade value is decent in the offseason, I'll look to move him, because I don't want to keep a jerk around long term. Even if he is a good young player under team control for 2 years, I'm not sure that I'm going to hold on to him long term. But pretty excited to have him for the stretch run. I think he's a really good player. And so those are the trades that I made. So added Diaz in hand at the back end of the bullpen, and then added Verdugo and to my lineup, and added Alex Wood to the rotation. So go and just take a look at the team real quick and who's doing what. Again, this is August 1st. Nick Matan, 6.1 WAR through 110 games, a 170 run rated created plus. He's hitting 346, OPS over 1,000. This guy's awesome. And again, I got him as one of 4 prospects in a trade for Tanner Scott. He looked like an okay-ish infield prospect, and he's won Rookie of the Month up 3 months in a row. He won AL Player of the Month in May. I mean, he's looking like a superstar, possibly. I mean, he's having a superstar season. We'll see if he can do it again. So that's pretty awesome. He's leading the way. I mean, Ryland Bannon is having a breakout year. He's on pace for 4.6 WAR. And he's being overshadowed by Matan. Rutschman and Matan both made the All-Star game, as did a couple of relievers. Verdugo's numbers are from the Red Sox. Mountcastle's having a good year, 2.3 Wins above replacement, a 120 OPS plus. That's a really good season. Here's Larnach. He's got a 113 runs created plus. Austin Hayes is having an okay-ish year. He's below league average with the bat. His glove's good, though. Adam Hall's backing up. Pillar's doing okay in center field. His fielding's good. That's what he's there for. His WAR was higher. Those games in right field brought down his wins above replacement a bit. And then my bench players are not doing anything. But Toro's actually gotten hotter lately. I did think about bringing in a bench bat, but there was just no good fit out there. And I'm pretty comfortable with these guys, even though they haven't performed yet. You might notice Carlos Correa finally doing something. Runs created plus is above average finally, 103, 1.4 WAR, which is terrible by his standards. But in early June, he had negative WAR. His runs created plus were around 60. And again, remember, he came in and put up 0.3 WAR with me in 69 nice games after the trade last year. But he's finally doing something here. Here's his batting splits. I know there's a lot of information on the screen here at once, but let me see if we can get just the. So here, so May, he was hurt, but he came back, and his slash line's picking up. 290 average, 300 average. On base is high, so 22% of league average hitter, 22% above league average in June, 14% above league average in July. So that's great because he was a 20% below league average hitter for me for the first 90 games I had him. So it's great. He's finally hitting, and I really need him to because my pitching has been hit or miss. But Matan, of course, is the story here. I mean, just unbelievable season. So pitching, I made some changes here. You can see Luis Severino is my number one starter. I'll need a sip of water. You might remember back in April, I got him from the Yankees. He was a reliever who the Yankees really wanted to get rid of because he had come back from his real-life injury, Tommy John, that he had in real life in early 2020, I think. And so he missed the entire 2020 season. He came back last year in 2021 for them, and they viewed him as strictly a strictly a reliever. There's a lot going on here. So see the cursor here. So he pitched in 44 games for them last year, and then got off to a rough start this year for him with a 6.75 ERA, and they were just done with him. And I put him in the bullpen, and he was great. He was one of the best relievers in baseball. He's put up like a 1.5 wins. But so the Yankees didn't think he was a starter. Brandon Hyde, my coach, didn't think he was a starter, and neither did my scout. But I said, forget it. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try him in the starting rotation because he had everything. His stamina's fine. He's got 2+ pitches on an average pitch, above average stuff, above average control, solid movement, and he was just dominating. And with how much my starting pitching was struggling, I decided to give it a chance. So you can see how he's done in the start. He started 7 games for me with a 3.46 ERA. That's great. I'll take that. I'll take that all day. And for more advanced stuff, he had a FIP of 1.32 as a reliever, 2.23 ERA. I mean, 36 innings and 1.8 WAR. But mid threes ERA and FIP, 7 starts. He's put up 1.1 wins. I'll take that. His Ks are way down, only 8.3 versus 15 as a reliever. I'll see what I'll do moving forward with him. He's a $15 million option next year, which I'll only pick up if I plan to start with him, but it's working out so far. If he struggles, if he hits a rough patch, I might move him back to the bullpen because I know he can be a freaking ace reliever. But ace relievers are, expensive and hard to come by, but not nearly as hard to come by as, a really above average starter. So Severino's there, and let's go ahead and just look at it this way. And he's put up 2.5 wins. DL Hall, rookie year, he's been solid. 1.4 wins in 21 games. ERA and FIP are in the 4s. I'll take it. Oscar De La Cruz is a reliever for me, who I got from the Cubs back when I traded for a bunch of pitching prospects in 2020. He went to the All-Star game for me. He has stricken out 13.1 guys per 9. Durbin Feltman is a guy who came over from the Red Sox in trade back when I was rebuilding. He's my closer, 1.1 WAR, good ERA and FIP in the low end of the 3s, striking out 10.7 guys per 9. Alex Wood has struggled since he's come over for me. These numbers include his numbers with the Phillies. I'll get back to that in a minute. Diaz I was traded for. Eastman just came up. Claudio is my lefty specialist. He's okay. And then, if you remember, Luke Weaver and Luis Castillo were my number 1 and 2 starters to start the year, and they've both put up exactly 0 wins above replacement. They've been replacement level, which is just absurd. And then Alex Wood, since he's come over, negative 0.2 wins above replacement in 7 starts. And if you remember, my number 3 starter start the year is Brendan McKay, who was a solid number 3 starter for the Rays in both 2020 and 21. And he's now in the minors because he was just getting crushed. So, there's some issue with starting pitching here. My fielding isn't great, but it's not terrible. Certainly playing in Camden Yards is tough. Weaver and Castillo both give up a ton of home runs, even though none of them are strictly fly ball pitchers. And DL Hall's been fine. Luis Severino's been good as a starter. Michael Bowman isn't here. He's been in my rotation a lot during the sim. He's hurt, but he was getting crushed this year. And also Matt Barnes, who was my big relief signing in the offseason. He's been hurt pretty much the whole year. I'm beginning to think I did change my pitching coach again. That was the last update, and my ERA has been way better. Pitching's been way better since signing him, but still, just this issue with Wood, Castillo, and Weaver combined for negative 0.2 wins above replacement in close to 50 starts between the 3 of them. That's crazy, and it's a pattern here. It seems like one thing that I'm looking at is the relationships here. Hyde has an average influence on development, but as you can see, lower influence on a whole bunch of pitchers. Good relationships with a bunch of hitters. Maybe that's why Matan's having a good year, or not why, but part of it. But bad relationships with pitchers. So, I know I'm 60 and 52, and I'm 1 game out of the wild card. But Hyde's in the last year of his deal, and honestly, it's gonna be really hard to compete with. Getting pitchers who should be putting up before they come to me, they're putting up 3 wins per season each, and then all of a sudden they're replacement level. That's going to be hard over the long term to put up with. Nick Matan is not going to have an MVP year every year, and I'm not going to have one of the best offense in the AL every year necessarily. So, it's one thing that I'm considering not bringing back Hyde because of looking at those relationships and the development influence, and then the results of my pitchers. I don't know. I don't know if I can justify bringing him. Well, I could easily justify bringing him back. The team's doing great. It would be crazy not to bring him back in a way, but man, it's really hard without starting pitching. I don't know how this team is contending with some of the worst starting pitching in the league, but we are. And so, that's a little bit of a tangent, but. So here we go. So batting average, Matana's dropped a little bit. He's down to 5th. I think he only hit 320 in July, so he dropped a bit. Hits, he is 2nd down here on the right, 7 hits behind Victor Robles. I think he's got 91 RBI, so he's in the race there. But he's not going to be able to win the Triple Crown, though, because he only has 25 homers. So I don't think he's going to catch Giancarlo or Alonso or Soto or any of those guys. But he's up there in a bunch. He's 4th in WAR at 6.1. At bats, he's up there. Let's see, what else is he up there in? Extra base hits, he's 5th. Win probability added, he's 4th. OPS plus, he's 7th. WOBA, he's 3rd. I mean, this guy's having a superstar season. We'll see. We'll see if he can. He's a superstar in the league and can sustain it for a couple years. That'd be awesome. So anyways, that's where we're at. We're 1652. We're a game out of the race. July wasn't great for us, but hopefully we can get some better starting pitching and just make a run here. I would imagine my next update will probably be end of the season. Obviously prior to playing a wild card game, end of the regular seasonal update. And just there are a lot of teams in here though. And the starting pitching is worrying, and part of the reason why July wasn't a very good month, but we'll see. Pretty awesome. This is about as good as this year could have gone. We were hoping to maybe be respectable around 500, possibly compete for the wild card this year, and we're exceeding those expectations. Hitting the 90th percentile of expectations here for sure. So anyways, that's it for this one. I'll be back with hopefully a good update.